Hello, everybody. Happy Friday night. Today is Friday, May 8th. This is the National Parents Union Nightly Restorative Check-In. I am Marisol Quevedo Rerucha. I am the wife of Daniel Rerucha. I am the mother of Camerina, Emilia, and Sofia. And I am the grandmother of Isabela Luna and Cynthia Iliana. My parents are Irma and Abraham, who are both born here in the United States, and my grandparents are all from different parts of Mexico. I'm very happy to be here. Tomorrow, before we get into our breathing exercise, tomorrow is Luna's birthday. She turns 4 years old tomorrow. And the day I became a grandmother, my entire universe changed because and it was really the first time I held her. So it was a difficult birth. She had an emergency cesarean, and Luna was in the ICU for the first couple of days. So I think the first 2 or 3 nights I stayed with her in the ICU, so we didn't get to hold her. But when I finally held her, I felt my universe expand and then like at the same time get really small, and I understood family in a very different way. I understood that connection, that bond, because in this baby was me, but was also three other families. And we were connected through this child. And I made this commitment in that moment to her blood, to her ancestors, to her family, and to really just doing everything that I needed to do as her grandmother to support her in her growth and her healing, and through any generational trauma that she may suffer from any of her bloodlines, through anything. And so that being a grandmother just changed my world. And it was very different than being a parent. Being a parent is very personal. You take things very personal, and it's such a heavy responsibility. And it is the most beautiful gift in the world. And but it's also the most difficult. It is the hardest. It is the most heartbreaking. It's the most challenging. And being a grandparent is almost like the reward, the recompensa. It's the reward that you earn, but it's just a different understanding. So happy 4th birthday to my Luna tomorrow. If you can, please send her some prayers for guidance, continued protection, strength, well-being, health, joy, adventure, all of the things. Okay, so let's get into our breathing. And remember, we do the 4-7-8 technique. So 4-7-8, we breathe in for 4 seconds, inhale, we hold for 7, and then we release for 8. And we do this 4 times. So I will count down for you to help keep the pace. And we're gonna get ready. So go ahead and breathe out. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so today I want to share a reading with you. And this was sent to me by my dear friend, Shelly. She was on the show a couple of weeks ago. So this is, let me see if I can find it, How to Practice Letting Go When You Catch Yourself Holding On. So I'm going to read the introduction and then just 2 of the things that they say. And then I want to read the second part of it. I'll read that on Monday. So if you worry too much about what might be or what might have been, you will ignore and overlook what is. Remember this: happiness is letting go of what you assume life is supposed to be, like right now, and sincerely appreciating it for everything that it is. So the author starts. Over the past decade, as Angel and I have gradually worked with hundreds of our course students, coaching clients, and live event attendees, we've come to understand that the root cause of human stress is simply our stubborn propensity to hold on to things. In a nutshell, we hold on too tight to the hope that things will go exactly as we imagine, and then we complicate our lives to no end when they don't. For example, there are a number of times when our minds cling to unhelpful ideals, such as, life isn't supposed to be this way, I need it to be different. There is only one thing I want, I can't be happy without it. I am absolutely right, the other person is absolutely wrong. This person should love me and want to be with me. I should not be alone, should not be overweight, should not be exactly how I am right now. In all of the common examples, the mind holds on tight to something, an ideal that isn't real. And after a while, the inevitable happens. Lots of unnecessary stress, anxiety, unhappiness, self-righteousness, self-hate, and depressive emotions ensue. So how can we stop holding on so tight? By realizing that there's nothing to hold on to in the first place. Most of the things we desperately try to hold on to as if they're real, certain, solid, everlasting fixtures in our lives aren't really there. Or if they are there in some form, they're changing, fluid, impermanent, or simply imagined in our minds. So here are some ways to practice releasing and reminding ourselves of this fact that they're impermanent. So the first one, practice letting everything breathe. As you read these words, you are breathing. Stop for a moment and notice this breath. You can control this breath and make it faster or slower, or make it behave as you like, or you can simply let yourself inhale and exhale naturally. There is peace in just letting your lungs breathe without having to control the situation or do anything about it. Now imagine letting other parts of your body breathe, like your tense shoulders, just let them be without having to tense them or control them. Now look around the room you're in, notice the objects around you. Pick one and let it breathe. There are likely people in the room with you too, or in the same house or building, or in nearby houses or buildings. Visualize them in your mind and let them breathe. When you let everything and everyone breathe, you just let them be exactly as they are. You don't need to control them, worry about them, or change them. You just let them breathe in peace and you accept them as they are. This is what letting go is all about. So this is written by Mark Chernoff, and it's called How to Practice Letting Go When You Catch Yourself Holding On. So, and it's on markandangel.com. So they must be some therapist trainers who have their own blog. So I will continue reading the other pieces because I think they're really important. And I want to get to our guest. So please join me in welcoming Jordan Harrison. So Jordan and I met very recently in March, right? Yeah, we met in March, and we're both from San Diego, but we met in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Jordan, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a true joy and honor to be here.
So please introduce yourself. Share however you want to, share whatever you would like about yourself, who you are in this world.
Now, I'll have to tell you this. Ever since I heard you introduce yourself at Unido's panel you were on in DC, I reoriented myself towards naming those who I know that have gone before me in relationship to them, as they are like the knowledge and the pillars that I stand on. So first, thank you for introducing that to me and letting me reintroduce myself to the world by starting with the grandson of Ethel Rembert, Jonas Bender, Peyton Harrison Sr., and Bernice Walker, and the son of Jerry Harrison, or Jerry Bender, Blanchard Harrison Jr., by way of Chicago, Illinois, now in San Diego, California. And I think outside of the things that I do, I would just say I was birthed into a family of social justice, of love, of seeking truth, and understanding that our collective humanity is bound together. And so serving first generation students here in San Diego County and LA as well.
Can you, so I don't know if it was my computer or yours, I'm texting Sasha if there is a lag, but can you do me a favor and just repeat that last part of your work?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, so it might be my computer. That's why. So for anybody at home, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So my last part of my work. Oh.
Yeah, there's a serious lag. So I can see your beautiful face, and I can hear.
That's weird. Let's see, is that better? Are we good now?
That is way better.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Thought everything was set. But the last part that I was saying, I apologize for that lag, was my work is with Reality Changers. So serving first generation students in San Diego County. Outside of that, how we met, I'm part of the Unidos National Institute for Latino School Leaders, as well as I do work with Mid-City CAN and Grandparents Connections here in San Diego. So pretty much all of my work is just with community and coalition building and seeing how we can really make sustainable change for our communities for generations to come.
How did you, so you said you got into this work because of your family and you
Yes,
were raised. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because you're doing a lot.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. My dad, who recently passed at the end of March, was a pastor of a church in Chicago. And his work was not just helping people develop their faith life, but was very focused in the social justice, food justice, liberation of communities of color during civil rights times and before in the 1900s. And so my dad, I always saw him as pouring into people, whether it was counseling, whether it was praying, whether it was providing food, whether it was going and serving people at the hospital. My orientation towards the world was that our life of service is what's really going to be valuable. And my dad always kind of poured that into me. And so I think from that visualization of being young, my mom was always teaching as well. So both of them really poured into me that it's about serving others and walking alongside others and not judging folks, meeting them where they're at and seeing what we can do to walk alongside them and honoring the truths that they hold.
So how were your parents about also taking care of themselves?
Yeah.
So because when you're pouring so much into other people, like how were they in that?
Yeah, I think that's where my parents' faith life was really big for them. Their church community was very important for them. I think also too, my parents always found time. They were blessed. They were married 39 years, and I think they figured out ways to just enjoy each other and to keep joy. And I think one thing my father always told me, he was like, "The work is important, but remember your family as well, and not think of your family as an afterthought." But as something that you need to foreground in the spaces that you operate in, taking care of family, even extended family. My father, he always told me stories about how his family were always doing things together, always serving and always working alongside. And so my father, I think, just showed me and my mom that it was about loving each other, but also knowing how to take a step back and honor the space that you need to do what you need to do, which is what I'm learning to do better.
Mm-hmm. So, you just lost your father.
I did. Yes, ma'am.
And how, in this time with COVID and not like it's just so different. It's just such a different time. How are you doing and how is your family?
I mean, I thank you for asking that. I think it's been really hard. I think it was a sudden traumatic, just had a heart attack and passed in his sleep. He was only 64 years old. My assumption was, I thought I had another at least 10 or 15 or 20 years. So I think figuring out how to grapple with grief, especially in this COVID season, unfortunately, we weren't even able to bury him the day we were supposed to go to the burial. The governor banned all gatherings. And so we were unable to even bury my father. And so that was hard on my mom as well. And so I think What I really felt so much in the season was just mutual aid and collective care from folks, yourself and so many others that have just kept me in their thoughts and prayers, my family as well. We've leaned on each other. We've leaned in memories and good music. But I think in this time of isolation, it's especially difficult because I think there's moments where, I would want a hug or something, and I can't get that at this time.
Mhm. So your family is in Chicago?
They're all here in San Diego
Okay.
now. Yeah.
But they were from Chicago.
Yeah. So all of my extended family, aunts, cousins, uncles are all back in Chicago.
So have you been able to spend time with your mom? And you have siblings also, you have brothers, right?
Yes, ma'am. I have an older brother he's married with 3 young children. So he's managing, trying to be a father and 3 people in his house while losing our dad. And so we've really had to understand grief. My friend gave me a good book on grief because it seems like it's a grief recovery handbook. And it looks at how do you handle and deal with grief and normalize it. In this season, it's almost interesting. It feels like we're really experiencing global trauma. There's a lot of loss, whether it's the loss of someone you know or love, a loss of time, a loss of work, a loss of something. It's all of us have some type of experience or may have some type of experience with some type of loss. And that's been kind of how we've been grounding each other, talking about it, normalizing it. All of us have sought out grief counseling, which was new for me, but I knew that to process and get through this time, I needed to be able to walk through with this with somebody else.
What a tremendous blessing. I don't think it makes it any easier, but to have the guidance and have the tools and to be seeking it.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you this, Marisol. The only reason why I was able to jump into this was because in grad school, I decided for my first time ever to go see a therapist. I think as a Black man who grew up in the church, people told me that, you just pray about it and leave it alone. Felt like it was very stigmatized. But as I started doing this work, I understood that as I go on a journey of hopefully being able to heal and support others, I need to be able to heal and support myself as well. And so I remember the first time I went in grad school, I was nervous. I was terrified. I was like, this is like going to get some things that I've learned. But now I knew when I lost my father within a couple of days that I needed to seek out grief counseling, but it was because of that earlier experience of actually having counseling, losing the stigmatization of it, and being able to say, even as a Black man that might not feel that counseling is something that we do, breaking that norm and saying, we need to have these honest, emotional, vulnerable conversations to really connect to our real lived experiences.
So you don't have to get into details at all, but what was it that got you to that place of realizing that you needed therapy?
The first time or the second time?
The first time.
I realized that in my work with students, there was so much trauma, so much work that people were working through. And I would always tell them, go see counseling, go see counseling. I feel like a hypocrite. I was telling people they should go do it, and I wasn't doing it myself. And so I told myself in that moment that if I'm going to tell my students to go take a walk to see a counselor, I should take that walk myself because there's work that I need to do. And I think it's because of the love of how much I really want to tell my students, I can speak from experience. It's not easy, but you can do this. And so I thought of the stories and narratives of the students and families that I serve. And I was like, all right, let me do this as an extension of, if I hope them to do this, let me be a conduit for them doing it as well.
Wow. So I feel very connected to that, in that a lot of things that I've done and the way that I've pushed myself is because I'm a mom.
Yeah.
Because I want to be who I want my kids to be. And I have daughters.
Yeah.
And so, and you're doing this because of this profound love and the responsibility that you have for community,
yes,
for youth.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that's really beautiful. What did you learn in your therapy?
I think the first thing I learned was that I'm not okay, and that's okay. I think I also just learned how to sit in silence and to sit with discomfort. The process of reflective learning, the layers and the intersectionalities of how experiences can play into who we are today, and really just the importance of having a person who you can unload with, who you can talk with and be vulnerable with. I realized once I graduated that I almost had become normalized to thinking that every other week I would have someone to kind of unpack, to process with. And when I lost it, I realized I needed to do some other things to kind of emotionally stabilize myself, because the counselor and I's relationship had become so connected that I felt like I could build up emotions and then be like, okay, here's what's going on. What do I do? Or how do I process this? Or I'm understanding this. But I'll tell you, the most powerful thing though was just the understanding of self, the understanding of how I'm showing up, interrogating real emotions and questioning where they're coming from, and being able to really honor them, that they're there, not feel that they're wrong, but then to figure out what these feelings are here, whether it's anger, depression, or if it's imposter syndrome. So the real question then is, sitting with these emotions, what am I going to do with them? And to begin that work. And in some of those areas, I'm still doing the work, but I think just getting that process and working on it, that continual work, has been phenomenal for me.
So what are some of the things that you learned to do? So I just need to say this, that realization of, like, you were having the emotions, but you had this person, so you were like able to hold it off, right? Like,
Yeah.
I can hold it off because I know I'm going to work this with my therapist. Like, we
Yep.
got this.
Yep.
And I can relate. And but then it goes to like, oh, like that, then that's gone. So now how do you start to really do that work? So what are some of the ways that you've learned to do those emotional checks with yourself, and to continue to grow, and to start, continue unpacking and reflecting, and like really continuing to understand yourself?
Yeah, I think one of the first things, I love journaling now. I was never a big journaler, but journaling has become a place of just reflection, of intentional quiet time. I could send them to you. I have about like 52 journal prompts that I just kind of can pull from for like every day or every week of the year. And I use a lot from other friends. So journaling has been a place of just grounding and recentering my day. I think I've also called in people to be real accountability partners. When I left grad school, I didn't leave the people who knew the work that I was trying to do. So I have 3 people that hold me accountable to different things. I know for myself, as you can tell from the family I was in, productivity was something I had to unlearn, from a sense of like capitalism and value associated with productivity. And so I had friends hold me accountable to, hey, don't let me work myself out of my health. And so I've had people that would just kind of do, I call them love checks. So once a week, they're like, hey, I'm checking on, love to yourself. Like, how are you doing? So having those check-ins have been big. And the last one I think was just kind of a fun one. I really love bachata and salsa. So on the fun side, I was always just going out dancing, having a good time, and just learning and while dancing. So I think reflection through journaling, accountability with community, and in a way of releasing through dancing were ways that I was able to still process and making sure it's still real.
I love you so much.
I love you too, buddy. So
I was like you, yes, like just everything is a big yes. Because the other thing that's important, like you said, is the movement.
yeah,
We are whole beings.
yep,
And so there's that piece around like our emotional selves, our reflective selves, our mental health, and that physical component. It
yeah,
is so important. And then to do it with joy, with
yeah.
music.
Marisol, you're preaching right now. I'm telling you, I one thing that I refuse to lose is going to be my joy.
Mhm.
I think I can still sit with, grief and hard feelings, but I hold on to that sense of joy. Even in these times where things are tough, holding on to that sense of joy, whether through music or other things, just finding ways to sustain our joy, while also honoring other the emotions. I think it's something that I'm really grounded in, so that we can make sure that we can endure. Because if we really looked at some of the tragedies or things we're dealing with, it could feel overwhelming. And so for me, the last thing that I do too is every morning I write down 10 things I'm grateful for. And so if I only get 3 in the morning, then I have to finish it at night. So just before I started in my day, just thinking of the smallest things to be grateful for. That's why I love the breathing exercise that you pointed out, of even sometimes looking at the things that we can consider so small, but can be so monumental, and just expressing appreciation for their existence in our communities and our lives every day.
I that's one of the things when I wake up is my first thing. I'm like, thank you, God,
Yeah,
for waking up.
yeah,
And then that's I start to go through my list of all the things that I'm grateful for.
yes, ma'am.
Um, and I notice that like if I get up in a weird way and for some reason that doesn't happen, it's like, oh, like what, like it throws the day off.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
completely.
So tell me a little bit more about your journaling. So this is fascinating to me. So I had somebody who came on and he talks specifically about journaling, and he does autocosino, and he does like drawing, and he makes his journals are really pieces of art now.
Yeah.
And then he shared some different journaling resources. So I just think it's fascinating that, and then a couple of other people have talked about it, how much that the written, like that process of actually putting something on paper has been a part of their healing, preservation, self-care.
Yeah.
How did you turn to that? And what type of journaling do you do?
I think I turned to it, if I'm honest with you, I think I was just desperate. I was looking for something to feel like a release, something that felt like a healthy release where I could feel like I was putting motion somewhere. I think when I first started journaling, I didn't have a counselor. Like I wasn't seeing a therapist or a counselor. And I just remember I was like, I don't know where to put these things at. And someone was like, just try this. And I was like, oh, whatever. So I tried it. And I think what I appreciated most about it was almost not what I was writing in the moment, but when I was allowed to look back and look at the chronological order of emotions of what I was feeling very prevalent at then. And it allows me mentally to put in proximity the pain, the severity of the emotion, the small things that I was seeing, the joy that I had, and to put that in context of my present moment. And so I think one of the things that I loved most about it was writing in the moment to get it out, but also looking back at it as almost like a testimonies of the things that have happened and the things that I had gone through and the things that were great. And so for me, my journal prompts can really come from anything. I'm a very I don't want to say impulsive, but I look for small things. Like I can look for small sentence starters. I could probably, after this, I'll probably write about like your glasses and lead me to thinking about like, what was I seeing during the day or something like that. Like for me, it's very interesting because I do spoken word as well, like improv spoken word. And
What?
yeah. So I do that as well. And that's all spontaneous. And so my journal entry, although I'll have some things to prime, sometimes I literally just like to sit back, reflect on my day and say, what were some things that were sticking out to me? I'm always reading something, or so I'll write down a favorite quote or something from a book and process that. And so for me, my journaling is it's a lot more organic than it's been like constructed with different certain things for me.
Well, and what it is, so this is the thing that I got from Otto, is it's exactly what it needs to be for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you like, there is no rule.
Yeah.
This is about what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so important because I think in a world where we try and create universal truths with so many different identities and people that are beautiful in the world, it's about being able to say, okay, I need part of this, part of that, and this is what's most real and resonant for me. And so I think I've found I'm still finding my little perfect mix, but I completely agree with that and speak so much to my students around not having like these one size fits all approaches for everything, but really being able to think about what does that truth mean for you and how can it be what it needs to be for you, because that's going to work for you.
Mm-hmm. It part of it is it's the permission,
Yeah.
and I think like in that article that I read in the introduction, that idea of should, like the way things should be, the way that, and I feel like these things with expression, however it is, like I like to I'm somebody that I like to know the rules, or I like some guidance, but then once I know it, then I want to like, then I can break it, and then I can
Yeah.
to make it fit me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
so true. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, you.
I think that's so true because I think when I think about my counseling journey, that was one of the permissions that I needed to unlearn for myself. I needed to give myself permission to go and do this, to give myself permission to feel whatever feelings were going to come from it, and to give myself permission to say, and you're still Jordan. I think so many times our identities can really be situated in certain truths that we hold that are unchanging or feel like they need to be unchanging. And that truth in the moment when I needed counseling was that I need to process something and I need to challenge some truths that I might have held my entire life. And sometimes those are some of the hardest things for us to unlearn and relearn and redo, because it takes sometimes work in challenging truths that we have held.
So when you think about like Jordan, like
Yes,
who is Jordan? Like the spirit, the
yeah,
light, the,
yeah.
how would you describe?
Vibrant would be the first one. Vibrant, humble, and also accountable. I think um, I'll break those down. I'll just say vibrant, because I feel like my dad was a person who just always could light up a room, would just start talking to everybody. Didn't matter what you identified as, what you're doing. He was like, let's just talk as people and be present in this moment. So I would just say vibrant, just wanting to bring joy in people's lives. I do a lot of speaking too. And I think I've always realized that you never really know who's listening, and you never know what words you can say that can impact and empower someone's life. And so if I live my life and I live every conversation with, this might be the last conversation I have with this person, did it honor that person? Did it challenge that person? Did it encourage them on their way? And I think I said all those things because sometimes we do need to have those tough conversations. But for me, it's a vibrancy and a passion for it. And that's kind of where that accountability comes in that I was talking about. I can't remember the last one that I said, but those are two. Humble. Oh yes. And really big on humility. I think I see myself as also like a researcher of others. I feel like I can learn just as much. I feel like I can learn from an elder as well as I can from a student, and looking just to honor whatever I can learn from anyone. So I think I'm a big learner and humble in that sense, where I'm free to give, but I'm also so open to receive from any person that's able just to speak and our souls and spirits to connect.
Mm-hmm. I love Father Greg Boyle.
Yes.
Ministries.
Yes.
And what I love, like, he totally changed my paradigm, because he said, the way that I interpreted, he said, we go to the margins not to rescue, but to be rescued. Mm-hmm. And we go not to save, but to save our life. And we recognize that as much as we hope that we impact, like, we recognize the honor of anybody sharing their story with us and sharing their, like, walking the journey with us. Yeah. And that piece to me is really, so then, like, that really helps me see everybody's a teacher. Yeah. Everybody has something to teach me.
Yes. Completely agree.
Age, whatever. Yeah. Even somebody that I may very, like, values disagree with, like, politically disagree with, like, in a very core way disagree with, they have something to teach me. Yeah. And I think we were talking about this in DC. I think when I was doing restorative practices, that was a value that I really picked up on really seeing the interconnectedness and honoring life and the value of it, and really coming in with a position of, like, not a position, like a place of holding space, but not feeling like I am the space, and knowing that there are many, like, lights and people that are walking in the same space, and how do we coexist in a place where even if we disagree, that doesn't mean I want to disregard your complete humanity. And so how do we walk alongside with each other during these even tough times like now? Woo, say that again. Say that again. Yeah. Even if we disagree, that doesn't mean that we disregard each other's humanity. Yes, ma'am. And it's a lot easier said than done. It's a lot easier said than done. But that's how I try and walk in the world. And because I think that was something I was really thinking about when I see some of the civil discourse or the disagreements that we're seeing now. I can understand the pain and the real terror people can feel about one another. But how do we still hold, like, the humanity that people have? I felt like I saw it in grad school a lot, where oftentimes identity would lead before humanity, where before I could even talk to you, I'm judging you and excusing your entire existence because I'm saying that you shouldn't even be here right now because of X, Y, A, B, C, and D, E, and you haven't even said anything. You were just breathing. And it makes me just think about the caution of people have just told us in civil rights, like, as times and things change, not to go from being oppressed to being an oppressor, and just really looking at how do we really walk alongside each other in this different space. So yes, ma'am. You got me going. Where did you go to grad school? I went to Harvard Graduate School of Education. No, come back. It's just a school. It's just a school. I actually, it is just a school. I actually had we didn't even talk about her going to Harvard, but one of my goddaughters was on the show, and she went to Harvard. I believe she went there she was there for undergrad. Nice. Yeah. I have to tell you the story how I got there, though, because it was interesting. When I graduated from San Diego State, I was actually a business marketing major, and I was set to go do sales. I graduated, had about 24 job offers in the corporate world. I'm sure you did. And then,
reality changers
Take
came
my money,
by.
take my money,
Yeah,
take
I'm
my money,
telling
take
you.
my money, take my money.
And reality changers came by, and they just spoke to my soul, and they really, I remember the CEO said, he said, I'm not gonna be able to offer you nearly as much money as some of these Fortune 100, 200, whatever companies, but I want you to think, can you make as much impact? And that really spoke to me, and kind of my call of feeling like I wanted to live a community connected life. And I remember I looked at my first paycheck and I was like, okay, we'll see how this works. But the blessing was, after 3 years of doing that, I was able to get into Harvard, but they gave me a full ride for my master's program, from the work doing with reality changers and serving what they were calling urban communities. And so it opened up a lot of doors. And I think it's important just to follow that inner light and really be mindful of, like, what are the values that you're feeling coming up? What are those unctionings of your spirit or your soul where you're feeling like, I should go this way? Sometimes we can't explain the paths that we need to take. It just feels like we're being led there. And I think that was one of those moments where I felt like God was telling me, hey,
Yeah.
you can make a lot more money this way, but this is what you need to do. And I'm so grateful to have gone down this path and what it's opened up for me.
So I want to talk to you about humility and
Yes,
about
ma'am.
humble. So this is so I've had people who tell me they're humble, and I'm like,
yeah.
and it's like sometimes I want to be like, people who are humble don't ever talk about being humble.
Yeah.
Because like, if you're really humble, like, you don't talk about it.
Yeah.
But I'm just, so this is kind of like, I've been playing with this idea, which is why, and you own the humbleness.
Yeah.
And so and I believe that you are humble, because like you were talking about graduate school, but you weren't like at Harvard graduate school, la da 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 da. But because it was so like you kept mentioning it, and I was wondering like, oh, I wonder what program he went to. I wonder where he went. It wasn't like a thing, like, oh, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, talk to me about that, about your response to the way I think about humbleness.
In terms of how I portray it, or in terms of how you view it of people not really being humble?
Yeah, all of that. Just talk to me about
I think for me, the way my parents grew up, I grew up with humble beginnings, and I feel like I'm one decision, one missed paycheck away from going right back to that space. And so I think for me, I love to own it. I love to own the space of being able to occupy Harvard, and to be able to occupy, and I'll listen to whatever you have to say. And I think part of that's just become the way my father and mom raised me up, and what they showed me, where humility is something that we really value. And they really grew me up and say, hey, you could be the one to have the mic, but you also be the one to pick up the piece of paper. And even just like the sense of ownership of not just the audience, but also the space that's right in front of you, and picking things up. And so I think that for me, I love owning the humility. I shouldn't say I love owning, that's weird. I just think I just walk in it, and it's really big to me. Because even this, I'm not a big talker or anything. I like to just listen to people and just hear what brilliance they have to say. But I definitely agree with you on, I've come across a lot of people that play the humility card because it makes me feel like a good person. But when I actually talk with you, there's a lot of arrogance and pride that comes through there. And I'll tell you, one of the things that annoys me the most are arrogant people and humble people. Because in the back of my mind, I'm like, yo, we can run it if you really want to run. Like, if you want to go there, we can go there. I was like, that's not how I want to. That's not how I want to show up. But
well,
sometimes
that's part of you doing your work by not reacting, and because they're not getting, so you're getting triggered a little bit. And then if you like, that's part of your work, where like, oh, I'm being triggered by this, like, am I going to go that way?
Yeah. And I think my dad operated in that as well, because he said, look, you can spend your whole life trying to prove someone else's point, or trying to prove someone else, and that's not going to be a good use of your time. And so, but it is one of the things that really does bother me, I think, when I see people walk around with severe pride or arrogance, like cloaked in humility, where it's like, oh, I'm humble, but they're really faking. I'm like, come on, yo, don't do that. But if so, God bless you on your way. Do your thing. I'll keep you at a distance, and I'll talk to you later.
I think part of what the way you were describing humility, and coming from like a humble background, to me, I just kind of got this idea of I thought about the earth.
Yeah.
As you were talking, like it's so organic.
Yeah.
And I'm not like I need to think about this more. But the way that you were describing it, there's just like this, like almost like a like simple life. Like
Yeah,
I know how, like just without all of the BS.
yeah, completely.
Like we didn't have all of this extravagance, we didn't have all of this, but what we had was strong and it was good. And it was almost like the things, like you didn't need them
Yeah, yeah.
because you had so much richness.
It's the joy. It's like that. You don't realize I don't think I realized I was poor until I was in middle school. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I was like, because there was so much richness that like you said, my family had inside the house and in times together, which is sometimes why I get frustrated when we talk about low income urban communities as though there's this destitute lands and there's nothing going on. There's brilliance there. There's magic there. There is life there to all the people that, like, there's so much joy there. But oftentimes it's pushed to the fringes and saying, "Oh, that's the life we don't want." And for me, those are some of the greatest years of my life. We didn't have much, but it was in those moments that you realize how much you actually have.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you for
ma'am.
that convo.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Because it's something I in some of the work that I do, I have to work with people about this issue. Like
Mhm.
um and um and so just having that deeper understanding of it is very, very thank you. It was just good.
Yes,
Um
ma'am.
so do you ever have like really bad days?
Very much so.
How do you like what are those days like? And how like what's your process when you're in it?
Yeah, wow, that was a good question. Um, so are we talking COVID, loss of father, or general other days? Um, I think I think recently, because I think those ones that have been most real for me, it's it was just a feeling of being overwhelmed, and I think I think too I still struggle with the imposter syndrome, of feeling like there's work that we're trying to do and still figuring out, can I occupy this space? You know, to that credit, I remember even being at Harvard having days where I was like I still blow myself away when I think I have a degree from there. Like I remember every day I walked on that campus, I was like, this is blowing my mind. Like I shouldn't, like, how am I here? And that constant questioning. And I think even on bad days, I think sometimes I will struggle with that sense of doubt, self-worth, the work feeling so heavy. And also the work feeling like, am I actually making a difference? Can I actually do something against systemic racism, systemic issues, generational trauma, these things that are coming up. And some days that just feels overwhelming. And my process with those, I think, is first acknowledging that feeling, and then really figuring out what am I going to do with it. I have a lot of people that I see as I call on for support to process things through. Um, we have like some buzzwords where I can call them like, hey, is this like a coaching call? Do you want me to listen, or do you just want me to listen? Sometimes I'll just call someone and vent, breathe back in, and then just like, okay, I'm good. I've also sometimes, because I'll counsel some students, I've kind of conditioned myself to become calm when I hear a door close, at my office. So if I'm working with a student and they're really struggling with something and I'm feeling like I'm struggling with it, when I close the door, I kind of just do similar to like a breathing exercise and just kind of like release that and let that go. And so I think those are two things: the community, releasing things and letting them go. And the times that it's been really struggling, I always fight isolation. I feel like in times of feeling overwhelmed, one of the easiest things that's for us to do that we almost at times have been taught to do is you just need alone time. And I almost am, take care of yourself however you need to take care of yourself. But for me, I fought that idea of isolation, because I feel like it's in community that we can really heal. Yes, you might need some time alone, but for me, I've really figured out what is the community mix that I need to really make sure that healing and the feelings can pass.
So now with COVID,
Yeah.
how do you do it?
You know, that's a difficult one. I've been having FaceTime lunches with some friends, so that's been good. I've been just having these Zoom conversations with people. I've been just talking to people on the phone. I've been having my brother and I have talked a lot more. And I think I still talk to students on Zoom. And it's still not enough. If I'm honest with you, I still sit with, I still want more and I still need more. And I think I've just really leaned on my community through FaceTimes and different things. We found creative way to do things using apps like House Party or just playing games together just to kind of build community and to still find that joy and resilience in a time where it would feel like, woe is me, it's depleting, it feels like it's too much. I still find time to do it. I'll put on my favorite music. I'll start dancing. I'll do it. I'll do a lot, my.
Ah,
Do a lot.
your sound went in and out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But that's okay. That's okay. So the last thing I heard was you put on music.
Yes. Let me make sure. I don't know what just happened.
You're good now. You're good now. Go.
Okay.
Talk fast.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just put on music. I'll start dancing, doing different things. Like you said, I think movement. I've learned a lot through Theater of the Oppressed and the work there that came out of Brazil, and just learning how does our body respond to trauma. I just finished a book called The Body Keeps Score that talks about how,
I
yeah,
just got it. I just ordered it. Like it's on its way to me.
yeah, it's a good one. And so just learning about how trauma can live in our body. And so I'm always getting our body moving.
So what has COVID taught you? What are your COVID lessons?
Ooh, that's a good one. All right. Let me take a second to think about that one. I think one of the first lessons, can you still hear me? Am I still
Yeah,
here?
you're perfect.
Okay. I think one of the first things that I learned in COVID is honestly, I think one of the things I've learned is, particularly if I think about the politics of now, I think one of the first things that I've learned is that cries and calls for unity have to be very critical. And what I mean by that is, it's easy in times of crisis to say we all just need to come together. But I think one of the first things I've learned is that coming together requires different things from different communities. And before we throw out comfortable messages of let's all come together and work together, really being mindful of what does it mean for someone who's first generation, someone who might be undocumented, just facing different challenges. Like, what does that mean for them to come to the table? And how can I make sure that our call to collection doesn't actually do more harm than good? The second thing I thought I can really appreciate is connection can still happen even without physical presence being there. The amount of people that have shown love to me, especially in the loss of my father, has been phenomenal. From text messages to phone calls to flowers, I felt like it's really been just like the mutual aid and collective care of so many people that I really appreciated it. And it reminded me of this quote my friend told me about was social justice in this community work is like a choir singing. If someone needs to take a step back or breathe, the choir is still going to keep the song going, and we're able to breathe again, then you're able to go. And in this season where I feel like I haven't been able to hit one note, there's been so many people that have still been singing around me to really make me feel that joy is possible. And I think that would kind of be the last one, that even in the midst of brokenness, even in the midst of pain, we can still find the joy, find the reasons to keep existing, because our existence is going to be the liberation for somebody else. And so may our joy and our mere existence be a place of liberation for others, even if we're experiencing brokenness. And actually, lastly, I think I've also learned, just relearned again, the power of vulnerability and how it can really connect us, and how when it really comes to having honest conversations, when we get past the accolades, we get past the education, when we get past who you know, and we really get yeah, we really get down to like, yo, who are you? Like, let's really connect. And let's really talk about how life is happening and how we're experiencing it, and grow from there. And I really appreciated this space for me being able to be vulnerable with people, to have the practicing the art of sharing grief, understanding how to hold it, understanding how people show up for it. And it's been amazing just to reconnect with people on a real vulnerable level, and to share humanity with people again in this time.
I'm not frozen. I just need a minute. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought of another thing too. Sorry, it's my
Like,
last thing.
no.
My dad was big on family, and I think I this season has also made me understand a lot about my history. I started building out a family tree. So far, I'm up to 152 people, and I've often quoted the saying, we stand on those who have gone before us. And it means something entirely different when you understand what they did. I
Mhm.
learned about my great grandfather who started the NAACP down in Mississippi and fought for voting rights for Black and brown folks when he was having a gun pulled on his head, and another grandfather who was part of the Mumford Point Marines and was the first Black infantry in the Marines. And so brought Black folks into there. And so when I think about the history of struggle that I've come from and the present moment that we're at now, it allows me to sit on even more of the generational power that I am able to pull from. And it allows me to say, we can't quit now. And so when I think about people and where they're at, I think there's a different power in really understanding your history. You know, that quote says, no history, no self, no
Mhm.
history, no self. And really knowing when you understand those who have gone before you, what they sacrificed, what they poured into you, and what they have done, it is like it's been life to me. It's been reasons why I was able to get through this season by understanding what ancestors had gone through, and how that is still in me now. And if that's going to be in me now, then what am I going to do with it? And so it's been a call to action to really step up in this season.
Knowing the blood that flows in your body,
Yes, ma'am.
like knowing the strength of the blood that you carry and the honor of that. I've had, I introduce myself the way that I do because it was a way that I was taught from my teachers as I started learning like indigenous ceremony. And I've had my one of my brothers in ceremony, Pedro. He's come on the show a couple times. But one of the things that he talks about, and also Esme, who is my god sister, I've talked about with him a couple of times the idea of this of our seven generations.
Yes.
Uh, that like we are. So when we speak representing, just like you talk about your dad pouring into you, we speak representing all of our ancestors and all of those who have poured into us. And I believe that our ancestors are also people who are not from our bloodline, but who have impacted our bloodline through friendship, through connection, through relationship. And so when we speak, like we are the dreams and the prayers of our ancestors of seven generations back.
Yeah.
And so, in the work that we do now, and the way that we walk in the world now, and the words that we say, the acts that we do, the things that we think, the prayers that we give, they're for seven generations forward.
Yeah.
So that would be like I have grandchildren. So that would be like my granddaughter's great granddaughter.
Yeah.
Like the like those generations forward.
Yeah.
And and I think for people who don't have that ability to connect, like I really feel that if you stop and you ask and listen, ancestors will tell you, like your blood will reach out to you.
Very much so.
If you don't have that way to tangibly find out because of adoption or because of whatever,
Mhm.
but if you like engage in the practice and prayer and meditate, and like the ancestors will speak to you and you start to connect with self.
Yeah.
Like the answers, like we carry them in our, just like we talk about historical trauma, generational trauma that we carry right in our blood, we carry also all of those gifts and that healing
Yeah.
with us. And one of my prayers when I pray to my ancestors is that I continue to learn from from the ways that they messed up.
Yeah.
Like I continue to learn from their faults, from their failures, from there that I can like that I grow from there. Which I think is also really important, aside from acknowledging all of the goodness and the strength, but also those pieces. Like we stand on on the shoulders of people who also failed.
Yeah.
And so, how do we continue to grow from that space?
Yeah. So true. So true. I remember when I was in Boston, I did a leadership conference for young people, and the most powerful line I got was from a young scholar who said her favorite word quote that she got was that you will be someone's ancestor, act accordingly. And
Mhm.
she really had me think critically on that. I think so long I was thinking about honoring those who had gone before me, but also thinking that I am going before a lot of people as well. And it's not an either or, it's an and having this holistic, I'm
Mhm.
honoring and learning, like you said, from both sides of those who have gone before me, but also those that come after me are living in a world that I am creating now. So what my visions and work are in labor is in now creates the world that they will exist in tomorrow. And so how are we pushing for a more equitable, different world that they can feel like the moment you're born, you belong and step into that power and take over the world. So I love it.
Have you written any books yet? Are you a published author yet?
I'm not. That's the next thing. That's the next thing I'm trying to do.
What are you writing about?
So recently, I was actually writing about my experiences with reality changers. So I was talking about how do we build community, and so I was looking at community across different. So I was looking at I'm always interested in like I've really been this is part of the reason why I love Unidos, Black and Brown solidarity. What does that actually look like? What does it look like to have us come together? And from languages to culture, looking at core values and how does that come together? And then the other one I was looking at was a lot of my work too is with um, pathways thinking and having young people develop multiple ways to see how they can get to their goals and creating new identities for young people. So identity work and self-work is the second one that I'm actually like halfway through. So I probably need your wisdom from it because I need to ask you some questions some later date around those.
I got you.
Thank you. Appreciate you a lot.
I appreciate you. So thinking about our ancestors, Sunday is Mother's Day.
It is.
So we don't have that much time, but tell me, I just love to hear your thoughts about your mom or about motherhood, anything that you're feeling in your spirit.
Just gratitude. My mom and mother's birth, like, wow. Like I like it's so much respect and appreciation and honoring the bodies of women in a real way. I think part of motherhood for me, as I've been thinking about it, has also been making sure that my work and my life is anti-patriarchy, anti-toxic masculinity, and making sure that just like I'm in awe of my mom. I'm not gonna go down there. I'm gonna go this way. I'm just in awe of my mom. She has held it down during this time of loss. She's been comforting my brother and I. Um, I think I don't even know where to start. I'm almost speechless when I think about the strength of my mom and women that have held up the backbone for much of society without acknowledgement or appreciation, and the people that have been mothers to me without being my actual mom. There's so many people that have had a kindred mother spirit towards me that have looked after me in moments where I probably shouldn't have been messing around or been out too late or different things, and just the warmth, but most importantly, the strength of women that it's not something to play with. And I think I really appreciate um, just everything that my mom and those that have stepped in as mothers to me have done and have showed me and have displayed to me and have just loved on me. And I think my mom, like I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do for my mom this Sunday, but I'll make sure she is well taken care of, honored, and just appreciated. But I tell my mom every day is Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And I will do anything to make sure my mom has a smile on her face, that she knows she's appreciated, and the people that poured into me. I love mom so much. Y'all really do keep us together. And so thank you because I know you're an incredible mom. Thank you for existing. I feel like you have like a motherly spirit towards me. When I talked to you, and was it your mom that was in DC as well?
It was my aunt.
Your aunt.
Yeah.
I just sat there and listened. I love y'all's spirit so much. Y'all have really just the moment you speak is with such force and power and everything that it's just a beauty to sit under. And so I thank you for your motherly spirit, the lessons you've already poured into me, and even allowing me to be out here today. It's truly a blessing. I'm grateful for.
You were my gift, and I am so just honored and so grateful. You know, the program, the National Institute for Latino School Leaders, has given me so much. And actually, there's there's a couple of people who are involved now with the parents union because of my connection with them through Unidos, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But just the gift of life, like we never know what those opportunities and what our experiences are going to bring. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for who you continue to be, and I am here for you always.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I got you. So we're going to say goodbye from here. Good night, everybody. We will see you on Monday night. Same time, same place. Thank you. Good night. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day.